The collective's envoy vessel emerged from hyperspace with all the subtlety of a supernova. Its crystalline surface fractured sunlight into rainbow cascades, a deliberate display of technological superiority that made Earth's orbital defense platforms look like children's toys in comparison. Ambassador Chen Wei stood at the observation deck of Lunar Command, her weathered hands clasped behind her back as she watched the alien ship settle into orbit. 70 years of diplomatic service hadn't prepared her for this moment. Humanity's first contact with advanced alien civilization wasn't going as anyone had expected. "They're transmitting again," Lieutenant Santos reported from his communication station. Same message as before. Chen closed her eyes briefly. The collective's demands had been clear and unwavering for the past week. Earth would provide 1 trillion credits worth of antimatter and rare isotopes as an entrance fee to galactic civilization. The amount would bankrupt every nation on Earth combined. "Put them through," she said, squaring her shoulders. The holographic projection materialized in the center of the command center. Ambassador Arxtal of the collective looked almost serpentine, its iridescent scales shifting colors as it moved. "Have you reached a decision, Ambassador Chen?" The collective's patience grows thin. "We have," Chen replied, her voice steady. "Humanity rejects your terms." The alien ambassador's scales flickered to a deep purple. Anger, according to their xenobiologist's best guess. "Then you choose isolation. No species has ever rejected collective membership. Your civilization will be quarantined. No trade, no cultural exchange, no access to hyperspace technologies." Actually, Chen allowed herself a small smile. "We have a counter-proposal. Look to your starboard observation array." A single ship had appeared from behind Earth's moon. It was small by collective standards, perhaps only a kilometer in length. Its hull was a dull gray, almost organic looking, with no visible weapons or defensive systems. "What is this?" Arxtal's voice carried equal parts confusion and disdain. "You send one vessel as your response to the combined might of the collective. We call it the Ouroboros," Chen said. "Consider it our entrance fee. 1 ship, carrying humanity's greatest achievement. Our scientists spent the last week since your arrival preparing it." Arxtal's scales rippled with what might have been amusement. "A single ship cannot possibly match the value we demanded. This is an insult." "Scan it," Chen suggested. "Really scan it." The collective vessel directed its sensors toward the Ouroboros. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then Arxtal's scales began shifting rapidly through colors. "Impossible," the alien ambassador hissed. "Your ship, it's alive." "In a manner of speaking," Chen explained. "The Ouroboros is a biomechanical hybrid. Its hull is composed of engineered bacteria that form a symbiotic relationship with mechanical components. These bacteria can rapidly evolve and adapt to any environment or challenge. They learn, they grow, they change. But this technology, it contradicts everything we know about biological limitations. Perhaps," Chen smiled again, "that's why we achieved it while the collective did not. You see, Earth isn't rich in antimatter or rare isotopes. Our wealth lies in our understanding of life itself. We've spent centuries studying evolution, adaptation, and survival. The Ouroboros represents the culmination of that knowledge." The collective ship's sensors continued their scans, and Chen could almost feel their growing realization. The Ouroboros wasn't just a ship, it was a proof of concept. A demonstration that humanity understood something fundamental about life that had eluded the collective's member species. "The bacteria," Arxtal said slowly, "they're communicating with each other, forming new neural pathways. The entire ship is thinking. Evolving," Chen corrected, "even as we speak. The more you scan it, the more it learns about your technology. It's probably already developed countermeasures to your weapons, just from passive sensor data." Arxtal's scales settled into a pale blue, a color they'd never observed before. "You offer us not resources, but knowledge." Knowledge that could revolutionize everything from medicine to spacecraft design across the collective. One ship carrying the key to biological engineering that your civilization hasn't mastered in millennia of advancement. So, Ambassador Erkstall, shall we discuss the terms of humanity's membership as equals? The command center fell silent as they waited for the collective's response. Chen knew they were at a turning point, not just for humanity, but for how life itself was understood in the galaxy. Finally, Erkstall spoke. The collective withdraws its original terms. Ambassador Chen, it seems we have much to learn from each other. As the alien diplomat spoke, Chen watched the Ouroboros drift silently in space, its bacterial hull already showing subtle changes as it adapted to the cosmic radiation around it. Humanity hadn't just bought its way into the galactic community. It had proven that sometimes the greatest wealth lies not in what you have, but in what you understand. Dr. Sarah Patel hadn't slept in 3 days, but the view from the Ouroboros bridge made exhaustion irrelevant. Through the living viewport, a transparent section of bacterial colonies engineered for clarity, she watched the collective's massive ship alongside them. They were now 5 days into their journey to the collective's central worlds, where humanity would formally present their bioengineering breakthrough. 4th stage adaptation complete, the ship's interface announced, its voice a harmonious blend of synthetic and organic tones. Neural pathway efficiency increased by 27%. Sarah smiled, making notes on her tablet. As the ship's lead designer and chief xenobiologist, every evolution of the Ouroboros felt like watching a child grow. Show me the changes. The viewport shifted, becoming a microscopic view of the ship's bacterial matrix. Billions of engineered microorganisms worked in perfect synchronization, forming new connections, strengthening weak points, and continuously improving their integration with the mechanical systems. Fascinating, the voice said behind her. Your ship doesn't just adapt, it anticipates. Sarah turned to find Ambassador Erkstall floating in the doorway, its serpentine form held aloft by a gravity manipulation field. The collective diplomat had requested to observe the Ouroboros operations firsthand, though Sarah suspected it was as much about surveillance as scientific curiosity. That's the key breakthrough, Sarah explained, gesturing to the displayed matrices. Traditional evolution requires generations of trial and error. We discovered a way to make bacteria simulate potential adaptations before implementing them. They'd run millions of virtual generations in microseconds. Erkstall moved closer to the display, scales shifting to a deep gold. Curiosity, they'd learned. But the energy requirements must be astronomical. Actually, no. Sarah brought up another diagram. The bacteria generate their own energy through a modified form of photosynthesis. The more complex their tasks, the more energy they produce. It's a self-sustaining cycle. Like the mythical Ouroboros, Erkstall observed, a serpent consuming its own tail, forever renewed. Exactly why we chose the name. Sarah paused as new data scrolled across her screen. Would you like to see something remarkable? The ship is about to begin 5th stage adaptation. The viewport's display zoomed out, showing the entire vessel. Subtle waves of bioluminescence rippled across the hull as billions of bacterial colonies synchronized their activities. The ship's very shape began to alter, becoming more streamlined, more efficient. It's beautiful, Erkstall whispered, scales now a shimmering silver. But also terrifying. What prevents these bacteria from evolving beyond your control? Sarah had expected this question. It was the same fear that had initially gripped Earth's governments when the project was proposed. Watch the pattern of the bioluminescence, she said. See how it pulses in perfect rhythm. That's not just for show. It's a quantum-locked synchronization signal. The bacteria can only evolve within parameters defined by that signal. Without it, they become inert. Quantum-locked. Erkstall's scales flickered rapidly. But the collective's best minds declared biological quantum manipulation impossible. Impossible for individual organisms, yes, but we discovered that bacterial colonies, when properly engineered, can achieve quantum coherence at a macro scale. They share information instantly, regardless of distance. It's why the Ouroboros can adapt so quickly and uniformly. The ship shuddered slightly as it completed its latest evolution. The hull now displayed a subtle pattern of interlocking hexagons, each one a specialized bacterial colony working in concert with its neighbors. "There's something else," Axtell said, its tone suddenly sharp. "Something you haven't revealed yet." Sarah hesitated. The ambassador was right. They hadn't shared everything. The Ouroboros' most remarkable capability had been kept secret, saved for the right moment. But as she watched the alien diplomat study the bacterial matrices with genuine wonder, she made a decision. "The quantum coherence works both ways," she said quietly. "The bacteria don't just communicate with each other. They can interface with any biological system that exists in a quantum state." Axtell's scales drained of color. "All life exists in a quantum state at the cellular level." "Yes," Sarah confirmed. "The Ouroboros isn't just a ship. It's a universal translator for life itself. It can communicate with, understand, and potentially influence any living system it encounters." The implications hung in the air between them. Every planet in the collective harbored its own complex biosphere. Every species, at its most fundamental level, operated on principles the Ouroboros could comprehend and interact with. "Your entrance fee," Axtell said slowly, "it's not just the ship or the bacterial engineering. You're offering the collective a key to understanding life throughout the galaxy." Sarah nodded. "The Ouroboros is just the beginning. Imagine medical treatments that adapt in real time to any species' biology, ships that can heal themselves and evolve to survive any environment, the ability to communicate with and restore damaged ecosystems." The ship's bioluminescence cast shifting patterns across Axtell's scales as the ambassador processed this revelation. When it finally spoke, its voice carried a new tone, one of genuine respect. "I must contact the Collective Council immediately. They need to understand the true scope of what humanity has achieved." Axtell moved toward the door, then paused. "Dr. Patel, I believe your species is about to change everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe." As the ambassador left, Sarah returned her gaze to the bacterial matrices on display. The Ouroboros continued its endless cycle of evolution, each iteration bringing humanity one step closer to unlocking the fundamental language of life itself. The emergency alert shattered the artificial calm of the Ouroboros' bridge. Sarah Patel's hands flew across the neural interface as tactical displays materialized in the living viewport. 3 collective warships had dropped out of hyperspace directly ahead of them, their weapon systems hot. "This isn't possible," Ambassador Chen said from her station. "The Collective Council approved our passage to the Central Worlds." Ambassador Axtell's scales had turned ash-gray. Separatists, a faction within the collective that believes sharing advanced technology with new species will lead to our downfall. They must have intercepted my transmission about the Ouroboros' true capabilities. The lead warship's commander appeared on their communication screen, his crystalline exoskeleton marking him as a member of the Vertex species. "This is Commander Zarkax. Power down your vessel and prepare to be boarded. The bioweapon you call a ship cannot be allowed to reach the Council." "Bioweapon?" Sarah's voice cracked with indignation. "The Ouroboros is a peaceful." Her protest was cut short as the warships opened fire. Streams of plasma torpedoes and quantum disruptors lanced through space toward them. Ambassador Chen grabbed her restraints, but Sarah remained calm, watching the bacterial matrices on her display. The attacks never reached them. The Ouroboros' hull rippled, bacterial colonies reconfiguring themselves in microseconds. The plasma torpedoes were absorbed into specialized heat sink colonies that had evolved specifically to handle such weapons. The quantum disruptors found themselves scattered by newly formed diffraction patterns in the hull structure. "Fascinating," Sarah muttered, recording the data. The bacterial colonies didn't just develop countermeasures. They predicted the exact frequency and composition of the weapons from trace energy readings. This is your response to being attacked. Arcstall's scales flickered between colors. Scientific observation. The best defense is understanding. Sarah replied, not taking her eyes off the readings. Look, the bacteria are doing something new. The Ouroboros' hull had begun to glow with an intense bioluminescence, but this was different from its usual patterns. Waves of light pulsed outward toward the attacking ships in precise, coherent beams. Commander Zarkax's image flickered on their screen. What are you doing? Our ship's biomonitors are showing unprecedented activity in all onboard systems. Even our recycling colony's air. The transmission cut off as all three warships suddenly went dark. Their weapons powered down, and they drifted to a stop in space. Dr. Patel, Arcstall's voice was urgent. What did your ship do? Sarah's eyes widened as she read the incoming data. The Ouroboros didn't attack them. It talked to them. Every collective ship uses biological components, bacterial colonies for waste recycling, organic computers for navigation. Our ship reached out to those systems through quantum coherence. And Chen pressed and showed them a better way to be. Sarah brought up a microscopic view of one of the warship's systems. Look, their bacterial colonies are reorganizing themselves, following the evolution patterns of the Ouroboros. They're upgrading themselves. The warship's lights flickered back on, but their weapons remained dormant. Commander Zarkax reappeared on their screen, his crystalline features arranged in what might have been awe. The efficiency of our ship's systems has increased by 300%, he reported. Our biological computers have evolved beyond our previous comprehension. How did you? We didn't attack you, Sarah explained. We shared knowledge. The Ouroboros showed your ship's biological components how to achieve their full potential. Violence wasn't needed, just understanding. Arcstall moved forward, its scales now a deep blue that none of them had seen before. You could have destroyed them. The Ouroboros could have commanded their biological systems to shut down completely. Instead, you chose to elevate them. That's the point we've been trying to make, Chen said softly. Humanity's gift isn't a weapon or a tool of control. It's the ability to communicate with and enhance life itself. Even in the middle of an attack, our priority was understanding and improvement. The Separatist ships hung motionless in space, their newly evolved systems humming with unprecedented efficiency. Commander Zarkax's crystalline face caught the light as he bowed his head. I will report to the Collective Council, he said, not as an accuser, but as a witness. What your ship has done, it changes everything we thought we knew about biological engineering, about life itself. As the warships prepared to escort them to the Central Worlds, now as allies rather than enemies, Sarah watched the Ouroboros' bacterial colonies continue their endless dance of evolution. In defending itself, the ship had demonstrated perhaps the most human trait of all, the ability to turn conflict into an opportunity for growth. You know, she said to no one in particular, I think we're only beginning to understand what we've created here. The ship's bioluminescence pulsed in response, as if agreeing that the greatest discoveries still lay ahead. The collective's central chamber dwarfed anything humanity had built. Massive crystalline spires housed representatives from thousands of species, their architecture reflecting the diverse biology of its inhabitants. The Ouroboros had been granted a docking position at the heart of this spectacular structure, its bacterial hull now pulsing in harmony with the chamber's own bioluminescent systems. Sarah stood before the assembled council, trying to focus on her presentation, rather than the dizzying array of alien life forms watching her. Ambassador Chen and Arcstall flanked her, while Commander Zarkax's testimony about the Separatist incident had already swayed many opinions in humanity's favor. What we've discovered, Sarah began, her voice carrying across the chamber, isn't just a new technology. It's a fundamental truth about life itself. She gestured, and the chamber's holographic systems displayed a magnified view of the Ouroboros' bacterial matrices. All living things, from the smallest bacteria to the most complex sentient beings, share a common quantum language. We've simply learned to speak it. A meridian counselor, their consciousness housed in a crystalline matrix, pulsed with skepticism. You claim your ship can communicate with any biological system. Prove it. Sarah smiled. This was the moment she'd been waiting for. Look at the plants growing throughout this chamber, she said, pointing to the bioluminescent flora that provided both light and atmospheric processing for the facility. They're already talking to us. The chamber's lighting shifted as the Ouroboros extended its quantum coherence field. The plants began to pulse with new patterns, their cellular structures reorganizing into more efficient configurations. The chamber's air quality monitors showed an immediate improvement in oxygen production and toxin filtration. Remarkable, a gaseous entity whispered from their containment sphere. But simple plants are one thing. What about more complex organisms? The principle remains the same, Sarah explained. The quantum coherence field allows us to understand and enhance any biological system that's willing to communicate. We've already seen how it improved your ship's organic computers. But the real breakthrough isn't in what we can do to other systems. It's in what we can learn from them. She brought up new data streams showing the information the Ouroboros had gathered. Every species, every ecosystem we've encountered has taught us something new. The bacterial colonies in deep space organisms showed us how to improve our radiation shielding. The symbiotic relationships in your agricultural worlds demonstrated new ways to optimize our resource usage. And what prevents this technology from being used as a weapon? Demanded a silicon-based counselor. You could theoretically command any biological system to shut down. The same thing that prevents you from using language as a weapon. Chen stepped forward. Understanding brings responsibility. The quantum language of life isn't about control. It's about communication and mutual growth. The Ouroboros can't force changes on unwilling systems any more than I could force you to agree with me by speaking persuasively. Arxtel's scales shifted to a new color, one that seemed to catch even other collective members by surprise. They're right. I've observed their ship since we first encountered it. They've had countless opportunities to use this technology for dominance. Instead, they've consistently chosen understanding and enhancement. The chamber erupted in discussion, thousands of species debating the implications. Sarah watched as the Ouroboros' influence spread through the chamber's biological systems, not changing them, but engaging in a silent dialogue that made every living component work just a little bit better. A massive mural cluster, representing one of the collective's eldest species, pulsed with authority. We have seen enough. This is indeed not merely a technological advancement, but a paradigm shift in how we understand life itself. The question before us is no longer whether to accept humanity into the collective, but how to proceed with this new knowledge. If I may, Sarah said, we have a proposal. The Ouroboros isn't just a ship. It's a prototype for a new kind of collaborative research vessel. We envision a fleet of similar ships, each crewed by mixed teams from all collective species, exploring the galaxy not for resources or territory, but for new forms of life to learn from. The neural cluster pulsed again. You would share this technology freely. With appropriate safeguards, yes, Chen confirmed. Because every new species that joins this effort brings their own understanding of life, their own perspective to add to the quantum dialogue. We've already learned more from our brief interactions with collective biology than we did in decades of Earth-based research. Commander Zarkak stepped forward. As one who initially opposed this technology, I now see its true value. The separatists feared it would make us vulnerable. Instead, it makes us all stronger through understanding. The chamber's lighting shifted again as the Ouroboros registered new patterns of communication from the surrounding biological systems. Sarah watched in amazement as previously unknown connections between different species' biological processes became visible through the quantum coherence field. We are all connected, she said softly, but her words carried through the chamber. We always have been. We just needed to learn how to see it. 1 year after humanity's presentation to the Collective Council, the observation deck of the new Quantum Biology Research Center offered a view that would have seemed impossible months ago. A dozen ships like the Ouroboros, each one reflecting the unique biological signatures of different collective species, orbited the massive station. Their hulls pulsed with synchronized bioluminescence, sharing discoveries and adaptations in the universal language of life. Sarah Paddle stood at the window, older but more energized than ever. Ambassador Chen had returned to Earth to coordinate humanity's integration into the collective, while Arxtol had become the head of the Joint Research Initiative. Even Commander Zarkax had found a new calling, leading a team studying defensive applications that protected rather than destroyed. The latest results from the deep space expedition are in, Arxtol announced, floating into the room. Its scales now displayed colors that hadn't existed in its species' emotional spectrum a year ago. New feelings born from new understanding. They've discovered bacterial colonies surviving in dark matter streams. The quantum coherence patterns are unlike anything we've seen. Sarah smiled. Every time we think we've reached the limits of what life can do, it surprises us. Have you reviewed the findings from the agricultural worlds? Yes. Arxtol's scales shifted to that deep blue that had become associated with wonder. The enhanced crops are producing yields 4 times higher than our previous best efforts, while actually improving soil quality. Several formerly desert worlds are showing signs of sustainable ecosystem restoration. They watched as one of the research ships demonstrated a new adaptation, its hull temporarily becoming transparent to reveal the complex symphony of life within. The other ships quickly began incorporating the improvement, each adding their own species' unique perspective to the innovation. You know what the most remarkable thing is, Sarah said, checking the latest data streams. We haven't just revolutionized biology. Look at the cultural exchange statistics. The numbers told a compelling story. Trade disputes between collective species had dropped by 60%. Diplomatic incidents were at an all-time low. It was harder to fear or hate other species when you could literally see the common language of life that connected all of them. The entrance fee, Arxtol mused. We thought we were measuring wealth in antimatter and rare isotopes. We could not have been more wrong. The true wealth was understanding, Sarah agreed. Every species brings their own unique perspective on life, their own biological innovations. By learning to read and speak the quantum language of life, we've created something far more valuable than any physical resource. A notification chimed, drawing their attention to a new arrival. A ship of completely organic design, developed by one of the collective's photosynthetic species, was approaching the station. Its entire structure was one massive, coherent living system, taking the principles of the Ouroboros to their logical next step. The Council has approved the expansion of the program. Arxtol said, "We're establishing research centers in every major sector of the galaxy. The quantum biology principles are being incorporated into everything from medicine to environmental restoration. And to think, it all started because humanity refused to pay a fee." Sarah laughed. "We paid a fee, just not the one you expected. We spent centuries studying life on Earth, learning from every microbe and mutation. That knowledge was worth more than all the antimatter in the galaxy." The station's biological systems hummed around them, every cell and molecule engaged in the endless dance of evolution and adaptation. Through the quantum coherence field, Sarah could sense the vast web of life extending throughout the station, the ships and beyond. All of it connected, all of it learning and growing together. "There's something poetic about it," she said. "Humans spent so much of their history feeling alone in the universe, searching the stars for signs of life. And when we finally found it, we discovered that life itself was the key to bringing us all together." A new alert drew their attention. The deep space expedition had found something else, signs of previously unknown biological quantum signatures coming from what they'd thought was empty space. The universe, it seemed, had many more secrets to share. "What do you think we'll discover next?" Arxtol asked, its scales cycling through colors of anticipation. Sarah watched as the research ships adjusted their course, preparing to investigate the new phenomenon. The Ouroboros, the original one that had started it all, led the way, its bacterial hull already adapting to better perceive the unknown signals. "I think," she said, "we're about to find out that we've only scratched the surface of what life can teach us, and this time we'll learn those lessons together." The ship's bioluminescence created a spectacular light show against the backdrop of space, a visible reminder that the greatest wealth in the universe wasn't measured in credits or resources, but in understanding. Humanity had given the galaxy not just a technology, but a new way of seeing life itself. And in return, the galaxy had given them something even more valuable: the knowledge that they were part of something greater, connected by the most fundamental force in the universe, life itself.